Hey everybody, it's Greg Harrelson here, and of course with my co-host Abe Safa, who was missing last week because he was out of town, out of the country, and I think most of you know. And Abe, I don't know if you figured it out, but I was, last call I could I don't know, I think I went live and then I wasn't live and then I was half live, and then I said screw it, I just just unplugged and recorded a video and uploaded it. That's what ended up happening. I just didn't get it right. But anyways, I'm glad you're back, so we can do these things right. And we're going to talk about how many leads should I have, which by the way is a recording that I did last week, but it was a very short recording. I just gave you the concept of what I call the database turnover formula. It's kind of like the formula to figure out how many leads you need in your database. So I'm going to do a little bit deeper dive and have a conversation with Abe about that. So Abe, if you don't mind, I think I'll give the actual the specifics of the formula, and then we'll kind of take it from there. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the database turnover formula, or the formula for figuring out how many leads you need in your database, or you need to be working at all times. All right. And I'll give you a hypothetical, and then we can talk a little bit more about how you would figure it out for yourself. But let's just assume for a minute that you had 1,000 people in your database. Okay. And then you got to ask yourself, so first is, how many people do you have in your database? Hypothetically, you have 1,000. And then the next question is, how many of those 1,000s did you contact in the last 30 days? So let's just assume for a moment that you contacted 100. You actually talked to 100 of the 1,000. So what in the last 30 days? So what that would mean is, if you take the 1,000 divided by 100, you come up to 10. 10 represents how many months it would take you to actually talk to all 1,000 people. Now, I'm going to stop there before we figure out what your ratio needs to be. I want to stop there and think about this for a minute, because, I was calculating, and I think that there's about 330 million people in population in America. I Googled that the other day, and I think it's somewhere around 330, 340 million. And then I started Googling things like, how many leads does Zillow, generate every year. And I think it said 60 million, something like that. And then realtor.com, I'm just making these numbers up, but assume that, they're not as good as Zillow when it comes to the volume. So let's just say that they're at 40 million. So 60 million plus 40 million is 100 million. And then you take Movado, and then all of our Real Geek sites, and the Boomtown sites, and the Sierra sites, and all the other sites that exist. And then you take, all the other big aggregators like HomeLight, Fast Expert, you name it, all these lead aggregators. I'm figuring that there's more leads being generated every year than there is population. But the crazy thing is next year, there's still going to be a very similar population. But next year, there'll be another 400 million leads. So let's just say there's 400 million leads today. Because if you look at your database consists of leads that you get this year, leads that you had last year, leads that you had the year before. Everyone's databases are like that. We're just accumulating. So it's like 400 million last year, 400 million this year. Now we got 800 million leads. And then in another year, there'll be 1.2 billion. So how many leads are actually captured in databases around the country? So my theory is if it's going to take you 10 months to call through your database, then before you reach your entire database, they will have already moved on, and they're already talking to somebody else. So what we believe is that you only really need the amount of leads that you can call in a 2 to 3 month period of time, 60 to 90 days. So let's just reverse engineer into how many leads you should have. Ask yourself this question: how many leads, how many people will you commit to contacting every day, 5 days a week? So let's just say, well, Greg, I will contact 10 a day. It's about all the time I have. I can make 10 contacts a day. Okay. 10 contacts a day times 5 is 50. Times that by 4 is 200. So you can call 200 a month. Times that by 3 months, you need 600 people in your database. If you have 600 people in your database and you talk to every one of them every 90 days, your conversion rate on those 600 is going to be much greater than the amount of deals that you're doing inconsistently and sporadically trying to contact random people out of the few thousand people that you have in your database. If you said, well, Greg, I'm going to make a commitment and call 20 people a day. Okay, so 20 people a day times 5 days is 100, times 4 weeks is 400, times 3 months is 1,200. Now, somebody that's going to call 20 contacts every day out of their database, that would be very impressive. It'd be very impressive. Yeah, but Greg, when I call through some of them, what happens if I call some and they've already bought? Okay, well then, if you've got a database and you're calling 10 people a day and you only need 600 and you call through those 600 and you find 100 of them are never buying or have already bought, then you now move those out of that database. I call that database, by the way, the one I'm going to call every 90 days. That's my working database. And then I have a separate database that I label, still in Real Geeks, tag, label, change the type, change it to your nurturing database. That's where you set up and just let the automation and everything keep working. So if you call through your working database and you find 100 of those don't need to be in your working database, then make sure that they're tagged for your nurturing database and do everything that you're already doing today. Don't change anything. Don't do less than you're doing today. Do what you're doing today. And if you can do more, do more. What you really want to do is you want to figure out who is should be in your working database, and you make sure that every single one of them are called every 90 days. And if you're not willing to call them every 90 days, move them to your nurture database. So then what you're going to figure out is maybe you need 600 leads, but you only have 500. Then that's where you go and invest and buy more leads. Or you go into doing more call in your nurturing database and figure out the gold nuggets that you need to shift to your working database. So this is the formula for how to determine or answer the question, how many leads do I need in order to build a really good business for myself? All right, Abe, I wanted to kind of set it up to get the baseline there. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I like that formula a lot. So basically, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that you should be able to cycle through your database in 3 months. Every 3 months, you should be able to cycle through your whole database. And if you're unable to,
minimum, minimum that it can't be 4 months. There's people that are gonna I think is gonna argue that it could be 2 months. And I would also say I'm probably I'm thinking a little bit more about buyers, and sellers. But again, it could be dangerous with those buyers because they can get tempted by a Zillow notification and they can be gone in a minute. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that. And that's actually with me working with sellers, that's pretty much the formula I use. I like to make sure that everybody in my database is communicated with at least once a quarter. Now I'm gonna propose that if you're working with buyers, I think that's too much of a cushion. I actually think that it should be every 30 days. If someone's looking to buy, I feel like that they should hear from you. Not talking about like active listing reports that you send them, either a phone conversation, either a text message, one or the other, every 30 days would be my proposal, right? Because I think if someone is out there looking to buy a property, it's very easy to get intercepted, like the term that we like to use. Someone's going to step in and scoop them up at the last second because they happen to call them that day. So I actually would propose that you move it up quicker to 30 days. That doesn't mean you should shrink your database, right? There's different ways around it. It means maybe make more contacts per day, maybe incorporate more text messaging just to kind of check in with people. If you spoke with them, say last month, and they need 2 months before the next conversation, maybe you shoot them a quick text message. Say, hey, I know you said not to call you until May, but I just want to check in and see if we're still on track to talk in May. Just something as simple as that. But I think they need to hear from you every 30 days at a maximum if you're working with buyers. And then, of course, sellers, I think I like that formula of 90 days. But of
Yeah.
course, barring, we're not talking about hot leads, right? Hot leads, when you segment your database, that's going to be a whole different conversation of how frequently you should communicate with them. This is just in general database, right? That's what you're
Yes,
thinking.
thanks for that clarity, because like if you've got a John Doe and Jane Doe that you're working with right now and you're showing properties to, yeah, I mean that's your hot lead. You're going to be calling them like frequently, like you won't be waiting 90 days to call them by any means, not even 30 days, right? So what we're talking about is your database, like how many total leads you need in your database. Because the reason this came up, I know agents that have 5,000, 6,000 people in their database. And when we look at their conversion ratio on their total size of their database is going to be about 0.5%. So 1%, I think, would be 50. 0.5% would maybe be 25, and they got 5,000 people in their database. By the way, for those of you that are here listening to this live and you're thinking 0.5%, that's terrible. Look, the average in America is less than 1%. So when you hear people say, I've got a 3% conversion ratio, they're killing it. If you hear somebody say, I got 5 to 6, 7, 8% conversion ratio, like that's almost off the charts. If you hear somebody say they got 15% conversion ratio, have them call me. I have a feeling that they don't know how to do their ratios. Now, that's not to offend anybody that's saying you got 15%, but you defy all logic. You like no one, like usually when somebody says that, they're leaving out a number, not intentionally, but they're just, it's the way they're calculating it, because that defies, like, that's just it. Usually we don't see that. But the average is less than 1%. So when I say 0.5%, don't be surprised. I mean, and where people start to say 15% is when they're not calculating the total size of their database. They're saying, well, my working database is only like, 100 people and I did 15 sales. Okay, I could believe that. But they had another 4,900 people that they didn't put into that calculator. So I'm talking about 0.5% here. You could actually have less than 5, that you could have 500 leads and call them more frequently and do more than 25 deals, versus having 5,000 leads and doing 25 deals. So that's where our mind is. My mind is that we do not have a lead quality issue. We have a call frequency issue. That's the issue in conversion. It's not lead quality. It's call frequency. Still, speed to lead matters. How many attempts you make as soon as you get capture the lead matters. But let's assume that you've got your database. The issue with conversion is call frequency. The databases are so big that we're not able to manage proper call frequency. And that's why this formula is why I'm starting to teach this formula and talk about this formula.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it's not a lead quality. And in many cases, it's not even a lead quantity. It is a lead contact frequency issue is what it is.
Yeah, we're never going to have a quantity issue because there's billions of leads captured in our databases right now, collectively, right? We've got more than we could ever need. Anybody that we capture, we're just capturing a dead lead from somebody else's database right now. This is all being recycled. There are very seldom do we have a new name pop up that's not already being marketed by a real estate agent. Very seldom does that happen. I wanted to comment and maybe talk real quick. Why do you think there's a difference? Why are you setting a different rule for a buyer lead versus a seller lead, Abe? Like you said, seller lead maybe 90 days, but you're thinking buyer lead maybe 30 days. I hadn't thought about that, but you got me kind of interested in that. What's your thought behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think people that are looking to buy need more attention than people that are in your database as an owner that you're nurturing to be a potential seller.
Okay.
Right. So because they've, and I'm not talking about sellers that raise their hand and want to sell. That's a whole different conversation, right? Because those are going to fall into your hot leads. But I'm talking about
Yes.
just general seller database. They're less likely to sell within a 90-day period than I think buyers are likely to buy within a 90-day period.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel like, as long as if you got to sell a database in your Real Geeks and they're getting the market reports on a regular basis, and then you've maybe added HomeBot, maybe not, but some other source that you send it to them, okay, and looking for opportunities for people to raise their hand, you're still going to snag those, right? You're still going to reach out to
Yes.
those more frequently. But I'm talking about people that are just not doing anything in your database. I think once a quarter you can get away with it and not lose too many deals. I
Yeah.
think if you ignore buyers 90 days, I think you're more likely to lose them than you would just a general seller. Uh,
Yeah. Here's something that came across my mind
right.
when you said it is I think I have no research has been done on this
Mhm.
that I have ever known of, or I surely haven't heard it. But I would speculate to believe that a buyer signs up for more websites than a seller. If somebody's a
Right.
potential seller, they're they may sign up for some what's my home worth or something like that, or maybe they want to see some properties, but I don't think they go from website to website to website and put their information in and like buyers do. So what up so if that is true, then that means the buyers are getting bombarded with new listing alerts like on a daily basis,
Mhm.
which means there's a lot more noise, there's a lot more distraction, there's a lot more agents that are communicating with the buyer leads than the seller leads. So every day they're getting hit by another agent. And so if today I get an email and like it's that wonderful lake property on that lake that I've been looking at for the last year, and I click it, and then all of a sudden I ask the agent a question about it, or because I clicked it, the agent calls me. And then in 2 weeks from now, I see another property and it's a totally different real estate agent. And they saw that I clicked it and went back to their website and looked at a few other lake properties. Then I get another phone call. I'm constantly, as a buyer, getting bombarded. And that's another reason why, like, if we're not calling with the proper frequency, it's easy for somebody else to start working with our buyer because the buyer is clicking all the time and other agents are reacting and calling them. I don't think that
Right.
that happens much with a seller. So if I was going to say, okay, Abe, well, let's change the formula to not 90 days. I need only the amount of leads that I can call every 30 days. If that was the case, okay, here's what people need to understand, that the quality of the leads that you would need, the quality has to be really high for you to limit the database to only those that you could call for 30 days. So your definition of a lead would have to actually get, your standards would have to increase. Like, these people are already pre-qualified. They're already showing a willingness and an ability to buy within the next 60 days. You would have to say that, like, that would be somebody that would qualify to be in your 30-day call list. If you're going to work a 90-day call list, then you're going to have those, but you also, in order to have 600 people in your database that you call every 90 days, the quality of them may not be as good as if you said, my database size is only going to be based on a 30-day call through. So the quality, the standards are what you would define as a lead. Maybe if it's 90 days, then you're saying, well, I want to talk, only people that I'm going to have in this database are going to be people that meet certain standards, like their time frame is within the next 90 days versus somebody else's time frame being in the next 60 days. So I think you would have to adjust it that way. And then you'd also filter through. You would have to have a constant lead flow coming in. So the next time you talk to a lead, you talk to them, and then you're looking at your current leads and you're saying, okay, this one fits this new list, this high quality list. And then you would have to then remove one from that list and put them in your nurturing database. So it's a constant filtering through the list, making sure that they're worthy of a 30-day call. But you would
Mhm.
level up the quality so good that the conversion would be extremely high. Now, it takes discipline to do everything we just said. That's why I probably would still stick with the 90-day, but I think I think what you said, Abe, for somebody who could be very disciplined and could stick with that 30-day, their conversion rate would be extraordinary. No doubt.
Yeah, yeah, that I agree. I think limiting it to having high standards for who's going to be in that, I think would help.
Yeah.
Either way, look, either way, we need to be able to communicate with our databases more than we typically do. That's the bottom line. There's so much lossage out there, so much leakage out there from every database. That's what it basically comes out to. Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, that's a wrap for today. I do want to just say, back to the coaching, is we don't have a lead quantity issue. We don't have a lead quality issue. The issue with low conversion is a call frequency issue. So if any of us are looking to grow our business right now, how about increase your call frequency, and all of a sudden your conversion will go up. Now, you'll find leads that you're not going to want to work with. Keep nurturing them, but then figure out how many leads you need in your database, in your working database, that you can call every 90 days. Commit to that frequency and watch your conversion ratio go up. All right, Abe, thank you so much, and we'll see everybody again next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching.